3, 2, 1, action!
Welcome back to another My Kids Locker empathy tale. This is Victoria Wolders, and I am so excited that you've joined us today. As always, we are attempting to create compassion one story at a time with these empathy tales, and would love to connect with you if you have any ideas for empathy tales or suggestions or feedback. I always like connecting with my listeners, so feel free to reach out to me at mykidslocker.com and my social media outlets. Well, today we are going to be doing the Tear Thieves. Very interesting title, and there's a few things that you can think about before we start the story. So today I'm going to ask you to start thinking about the last time you cried. Did you cry for joy? Did you cry because you were in pain? Why did you cry? Was there a good reason? One thing that we all have in common as human beings is that we all experience feelings. Today is the story of some thieves that steal tears. Sometimes I feel embarrassed when I cry because I feel people don't understand my tears. When I was in elementary school, I remember when I was in grade 7 and I was asked to stand in front of the class and to recite a dictate in French. I had to memorize a passage in French. And I remember vividly standing in front of the class, and I got overwhelmed and I started to cry. And I remember I left the classroom, and I remember feeling very disappointed in myself. And later on, I came to understand that your greatest weakness is also your greatest strength. That I could really feel what it meant to want to do well. And it was a very overwhelming feeling for me. So sometimes when we cry, we have to remember that other people experience that pain too. And sometimes when we cry, it can be a stepping stone or a bridge to connect with other people who might struggle with you on the same issues. And I know for me, when I look back to when I was in grade 7 and getting overwhelmed, I think I realized since then that I had to grow in an area. I had to feel okay if I failed. I had to be okay if I made a mistake. And sometimes that was really hard and still hard for me to admit. Well, as I read this story, I hope that you will remember that every tear that you've shed can also be shared with other human beings, because we all cry, and there's different reasons why we cry. And to be comforted and know that sometimes in our tears, we can actually find connection with other people. Well, if you are comfortable, then I'll begin. Once upon a time, a long time ago, in the Oak and Eagle Kingdom, there lived a woman. Her name was Mercy, and she was a very happy woman. She lived in a village just outside the fragrant forest in the land of the Eastern Eagle. She lived on a lake, and she was there with her husband and her 2 children. She enjoyed spending time with the elves, and they would often spend time gardening and working hard around the house. One day, while they were gardening, she leaned over and she found something by her front door. She found a seed. She was really interested in the seed. It was shaped like a teardrop. She had never seen a seed so unique. So she thought to herself, maybe what I'll do is go find the wizard from the land of the East Eagle, and I will go talk to him. He should be able to tell me exactly what the seed is for. She went to the wizard and knocked on his door and said, "Excuse me, sir, I think you may have an answer to a question I have. I have this beautiful seed that looks like a teardrop." He turned to her and smiled. "Well, let me see." He went into his cottage and brought out some books and looked through some seed books. He said, "Finally, I found it. This is the seed for the tree of tears. Wow, well that's really interesting. So how does the seed work? Well, if you plant the seed, then something special will happen. I'm not going to tell you what's going to happen, yet I will tell you this. Comfort, peace, and kindness will come. Mercy went back to her garden, and she planted this teardrop. As weeks went by, there was a little shoot that came out, then a branch. The seed had grown into a tree. She ended up tending to it week after week, and soon the tree began to reach up so high to the sky that she could barely see the top of this beautiful, magnificent tree. She ended up standing on her cottage roof. She saw the tree top. The branches and leaves were see-through. Some would say as clear as glass, yet as sparkling as crystal. She tripped and fell off the roof of the cottage. As she lay there, she felt pain and she started to cry. Her tears rolled down her face because her back was hurt. The tears came. She put her fingers up to her face to catch the tears, and her tears fell on her hands and her fingers. Just then, she looked up to the shining light that was coming through the crystal leaves. The warmth of the light touched her face, and rainbows stretched through the leaves to her face, as if there were hands embracing her face, and the hands touched her tears and pulled them back to the tree. She was in awe of the fact that the tear tree had now taken her tears that were once on her cheek and her hands. As her tears continued to fall, so did the beautiful stretches of rainbow through the crystal leaves onto the ground, onto her hand and onto her face, taking very gently the teardrops and pulling them back into the power of the tree. She was amazed at how beautiful the tear tree was becoming. Her family soon came out and said, "Are you okay?" She replied, "Yes, I think I've just found something so magical and so comforting." And she turned to them and said, "If you cry and you hold your hand and your tears towards the tree will embrace the tears and will take the tears and use it to allow it to grow stronger and will look more stunning and beautiful than it did even a moment ago. You will feel joy, kindness, and comfort as the tears are pulled into the tear tree. This is the most magnificent thing I have ever seen." The husband smiled. "We are so poor. Maybe what we should do is to start charging people to come and ask the villagers to visit this beautiful tree. Perhaps we can earn money and we do not need to be poor anymore." The woman turned to him. "I don't know about that. I don't know if the wizard would agree with this." The husband started to get upset. "But we need the money," he demanded. "We can invite villagers to come and they can give us money and they will be able to be delighted and enjoy what you just enjoyed. We will have a place for them to look and see and to bring their teardrops. They will be able to see what you saw." Well, the word got out into the village that this beautiful tree existed. People began to be curious about what this tear tree was, and so they came from all over the land. Soon, young children who fell on the nearby road or path would come, and they would be crying. They would be able to put their hands to their face and capture their tears. Then magical rainbows would appear between their hands and the tree. They'd see these beautiful visions of rainbows What ended up happening was there were some trolls that heard about this, and they thought, maybe if I just hurt someone, and maybe if I can grab their tears, and I can see what they might see. The trolls were misunderstood. They often would do bad actions without thinking of the impacts of other people. These trolls were acting selfish. So the trolls would often stand on the path or the road where the young villagers would walk by, and the trolls would push young villagers over. The young villager would cry because he or she was in a mud puddle. As soon as they started crying, the trolls would go over and wipe their faces and grab their tears. Then they would run as quickly as they could to the tree of tears. They would sit there with the tears in their hands, and they would allow for the beautiful rainbows to come through the glistening leaves, and they would see the comfort and beauty. However, with that, they had stolen someone's tears. The tree of tears soon started to wither because the tree knew the tears were stolen by the tear thieves. Over the next couple weeks, the trolls continued to do this, and the tree of tears started to die. Mercy and her family did not really notice anything at first, but soon they started to see the tree wilting. The husband was so concerned with the money that he was making, he did not notice that people had been stealing tears, and the trolls, who were now called the Tear Thieves, were actually killing the tree. Even though the Tear Thieves could see the rainbows, they had stolen the tears from the children who were hurt. The woman became concerned when she saw the tree fading. She went back to the wizard and said, "What's going on here?" He brought up the book. He said, "I think I know what it is. Who has been coming to your tree? Has anyone been coming with selfish intent?" Mercy started to say all the different names and the groups of people who've been coming by to pay, to feel good and to see the rainbows. She stopped for a moment and talked about the trolls, and she said that she had heard rumors that there were tear thieves that had been stealing tears and coming to the tree. She paused, and she turned to the wizard. "I think they're confused. And the trolls, they are hurt, and they want to feel good, so they choose to steal the tears so that they feel comfort and peace. They do not know the pain they caused others, yet they feel that they want to feel good, and therefore they will steal the tears of these people. They have hurt innocent people. I believe they are the trolls that come to the tree that are the most hurt, and in turn are the ones that are hurting the tree." She paused for a moment. What do we do? What do we say? The wizard looked at her. "You have to sit at the tree and talk to these trolls, the trolls that have now been called the Tear Thieves. They're going to continue to come. You need to have a conversation with them." Mercy went home and began to sit at the tree. Every time a troll would come to the tree, she would start noticing that he was angry and he had tears that he was holding. She would say, "Come here and let's talk. Let's sit down and share your tears and tell me about them." She would look the troll in the eyes, and she would start crying. Her empathy, her compassion and kindness for the Tear Thieves was overwhelming to her. She would say, "Do you understand that you're hurting other people to see and feel the goodness of this tree? every time you take someone else's tree, it kills our tear tree. And at that point, she started crying because she had such compassion and empathy for these trolls. And the trolls did not understand that they were hurting the trees and hurting other human beings. Then she would lean over and take her tears, and she would give them to the trolls. And she would say, "Take my tears instead." When they looked at the tree, the rainbows, tears, and branches became brighter. And it was only through her giving away her tears did the tear thieves truly understand what it meant to be kind and good and to look after other people. In time, other people would watch her talking to the trolls, and because the trolls were so misunderstood, and many of them had been called tear thieves, they didn't understand why she would spend time with them. But over the months, people watched. Then what would happen is other people would come and they would give their tears to other people so that they would feel comforted. She would continue to share the importance of shedding her own tears and then giving them away. Over the months and years, the tear thieves soon turned into the tear trolls. And the trolls that once used to steal tears began to share their tears with other people. And it was all through the example of mercy. Over the years, they decided that they were going to create a door in the tree of tears that would allow them to go down to the water troll kingdom, and that the trolls who were above land would easily be able to go to their home underneath the Oak and Eagle kingdom. And there was a partnership formed where the trolls would often come up and go down through the tier of trees. It was a testimony that tears are an important part of being human, and tears are an important part of seeing the beauty in life through connection. And as years and decades went by, Mercy and her family, and the trolls and the people and villagers surrounding them all came to a deeper appreciation to what it meant to care, love, and show empathy to each other. Thank you. The end. Thank you so much for joining us once again for another empathy tale, creating compassion one story at a time. This story is called The Tear Thieves, and I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that it allowed you to start thinking about what was it that has made you sad, what has even helped you build connection with someone who might be sad. And I hope that you can come away from this story yourself and be able to create compassion one story at a time. Thank you so much, and hope to see you on our next Empathy Tale. This is Victoria Wolders from My Kids Locker, signing off from Empathy Tales, creating compassion one story at a time. Thank you.
3, 2, 1.